Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. If you're new to my channel, the last video I posted was actually of me getting ready for the hospital to welcome my baby boy number 2. Honestly, it's wild to think it's been 7 months, but I genuinely do feel like I am ready to restart my YouTube journey, and this does feel like the right time to finally go back into doing something I like. So in today's video I just wanted to go through the birth story and sort of update you on the past few months, because it's been a roller coaster of emotions, and if you're expecting a second baby and you have babies in a close age gap, this probably might resonate to you. If you're interested in today's video, then keep on watching. Since the man of the hour is currently napping, let's talk birth experience. My first baby, I was actually scheduled for induction because just nothing was progressing. After 4 days of being induced and just nothing happening, we ended up being booked in for a C-section. So I did have a C-section with my first, and so it was advised I should probably go with it for the baby number 2. I have said to them that if anything progresses naturally, I would want to try to give it a go. However, up until the date, nothing happened. We were scheduled for a C-section, and honestly, even though I had 2 C-sections, they were still completely different experiences. So I think I will give you a bit of a backstory to my first one. As I said, it wasn't planned. So when we finally were booked in, it was just like this sort of relief. I was just so ready to go home, so I was happy to be booked in. I think because I wasn't like preparing for it in my head, and I was so laid back about it, the whole experience was just different. When they actually told me about the C-section, they didn't tell me exactly what time it's going to be. I was just told that basically in the morning they'll give me breakfast very early and I will then have to fast. Still in the morning there was no sort of update on the time, so I told everybody, you just stay at home, I will give you an update once I know what's happening. And honestly, that day could have been a proper comedy show, because I was, like I said, not really made aware of what's happening and what time. Suddenly this doctor comes in and everybody is ready to get me into the theatre. So I did make panic calls and everyone started rushing to the hospitals. I actually ended up being the first C-section of the day. They were all just absolutely amazing. They made me feel so relaxed in terms of like what was happening to me. The only thing I was thinking about was if anybody's gonna make it on time. And so anything in terms of like the theatre, the procedures, the steps, I literally blurred it out, like no stress. And the minute I was laid down on the table and like the curtain was put in front of me, that's when boy's dad walked in, literally like halfway dressed, and 5 seconds later my now toddler was born. With my second C-section, I think because I knew what was happening, everything started coming back to me and I actually started remembering, and those steps I sort of like blurred out along the way, but I was proper overthinking it up until the day of the surgery. We were scheduled for the C-section, we were given the time and everything. Obviously we were made aware that if there's any emergencies we will be pushed back. I was told to fast since I think the previous day. I think I was told to fast since 11 p.m. or something like that. We were allocated the same bed as we did with my toddler, which was so random but yet felt like the right time and the right place. And I remember we were just told to just sit down and relax, and we will be told when things are happening. And we were at the hospital I think for 10 o'clock, and at that point I was already so hungry. And if you know the hunger when you're pregnant, it's just a different experience. It just feels like you're eaten from the inside. And I was so dramatic about it, I have to say. I was proper like, I'm gonna cry, I'm so hungry. Everybody was told to make sure that there's plenty of food for me the minute I get out of the theatre, but because I think I was just so hungry, I was so drained, I was getting super anxious about the whole thing, and the fact that we were just waiting and waiting and it felt like it's never gonna come, to be honest. So finally we ended up to be the last C-section of the day. I think it was about 4 p.m. and when we were called in. I do remember every minute of that process, from the minute I left the bed to when I got to the theatre and when I was laid down, and all the needles, all the bits and bobs just felt like it was taking the longest time. There was quite few times they couldn't get into my veins, and I remember just having like tears in my eyes at that point. Everything just felt so quiet. And don't get me wrong, this is like a serious procedure, like this isn't a time to like joke around, but just everything felt so much more serious than the first time around. Like even the first time around, the little things like the music playing and stuff, I know you can request these things, but I'm just not the type of person. It was a pitch silence and I've heard everything that was going on. And the minute I was laid down, and that's when the partner was allowed to come in, so I did feel a bit better about the situation, but still, like I said, it just felt a little bit more like I was just going under the knife. But regardless, baby boy was born healthy and he cried immediately, and it was just such a special moment. I was shocked to see my baby being blonde and having like barely any hair, because my first baby had a full-on like hairdo, just the darkest hair. The process of like recovery at the hospital was a bit easier, but at the same time I was quite shocked they no longer give you those like strong painkillers. I'm not sure what it was it, I don't remember the names of it, but you just have paracetamol and ibuprofen, and I was like, are you kidding me? And I was quite scared. I was like, oh my gosh, how am I gonna do this? Because I really did care to go back home as soon as possible, because our family was waiting, everybody was so excited, and I wanted to see my toddler. You know, no one tells you about how much you're gonna actually miss your firstborn while you're at the hospital, and how much you're gonna think about it. I was in a bit of a pain, but I was just like pushing through. I just was so motivated to get home. So after 24 hours we were discharged, so I was super happy. Still, before we got discharged, we did ask for Koa to come and visit at the hospital, and it was like the cutest moment. He literally just like waved at the baby and proceed to have my dessert for my dinner. He wasn't very bothered, to be honest. Obviously he was only 18 months at that time, so he wasn't really sure what was happening over there. But yeah, this is basically how it went. In terms of how life has been since having two under two, I would say every single month is different. And I saw someone saying you do not remember the first 6 months, and I must say, when I was just sitting down and writing down a bit of a script for myself in terms of what was happening in those first months, I was a bit like, oh god, I don't really remember as much as I thought I would. Pure adrenaline that pushes you, that's for sure. Just briefly, I would say the first month I found really hard emotionally in terms of how I felt I couldn't be there for my toddler as much as I would like to be. It was the festive season. It was either first or second night we were at home, and I made the boys like the December boxes. And on the first, Koa woke up, he came upstairs, he was brought up upstairs, and I wanted to give him that box, but I just couldn't get out of bed. I honestly was in so much pain, and it made me cry that I couldn't be there to like help him get the box and bring it to the bed and like show him what's inside. And I remember it was super hard emotionally, and I think I'll never forget that day because it was really hard and heavy on me. And so I would say the first week, even though we had family to help, which I'm super grateful for, I found it really challenging to not think about my toddler and the fact I'm no longer just for him. It does still make me feel quite, you know, emotional thinking about it. So it does get easier, but I remember that first month specifically, I was struggling not to cry when I was just seeing my toddler. I would say month 2 and 3 I don't remember. Honestly, it must have been just the adrenaline pushing me through it, because I remember people saying like, oh, you look like you got this and you're like flying, everybody's fine, like everyone's happy. And I remember being like, you know, just I have to I just cannot just give up. I was just not sleeping much and just trying to keep going. Then I would say month 4 and 5 I found the hardest. I did give birth to the most Velcro baby. I was really struggling to get anything done. I had to do a lot of baby wearing, but at the same time I felt like the more I carried the baby, the more my toddler wanted to be close to me. But I understand they do want your closeness. It's not shocking, but it's definitely been more intense with my second one than with my first one. And the month 4 and 5 is where I feel like it was the peak of it. And I remember specifically month 5, I started struggling mentally. I just felt like I just didn't want to do anything for myself anymore. I was sort of in that, I don't want to go back to work, I just want to be with my babies, but at the same time, I lost myself. I don't know who I am anymore. I want to get some spark back, and I was very torn in like, what do I want to be and what do I want to do. I really feel like that was the lowest point of my postpartum, especially, like I said, it's just the guilt and the emotions and the not feeling like I'm doing enough, but feeling like all I'm doing is being a mom, if that makes sense. It was crazy emotions, and I honestly was trying to like get past it and just like ride my feelings down. I was just trying to stay busy, and we did go for a little trip to Disneyland, and it was like the most special trip for my toddler's birthday. And I feel like at that point some of the positivity started to spark back. And even though it felt like the longest month, I feel like once that month passed, I sort of felt like, right, I think that the dark cloud lifted. Month 6 we started teething hard, and he's definitely gotten a little bit more laid back. I can definitely leave him on the mat playing and him entertaining himself while I'm just getting on with the housework or just doing stuff with my toddler. So I definitely do see the light peeking through. It's getting much easier. I do feel like we're entering some sort of sleep regression again. But again, I know it's just a season, it will pass. It will not get worse, it will get better, but there will be new challenges, and I am aware of that. But I definitely do feel more positive about our journey. I honestly cannot believe it, but I will be coming back to work sooner this time around. I can see somebody's awake. It's time to meet the man of the hour, or shall I say the man of every hour of every day. Say hi everybody. Hi everybody. Let's talk baby names. With my first baby, we really wanted to go for something unique, but nothing too crazy because of my Polish side of the family. I just didn't want anybody to struggle while pronouncing or writing down the name. So we still wanted something a bit more special, but not too wild. I was looking at K and D names, and one immediately popped out for us. So we named our toddler Koa. We fell in love with the name. There was absolutely no turning back. We were like, that's it. When we were choosing your name, it was a challenge. I have to say, we couldn't agree. Honestly, we were looking at every single possibility and nothing just worked. I just knew we cannot have a Koa and a Steven, you know what I mean? I think it was your daddy that found the same, and I was like, yeah, that's it. So your name is Kaleo, and there's two pronunciations, so you can have a Kaleo or you can have Kaleo. I honestly was obsessed because I actually do love the name Leo, but Kaleo, for my Polish family, he's a Leonard, Leoś. Randomly enough, again, it is a Hawaiian name, and I think it means sound. Definitely something to do with music. We have our little Koa and Kaleo. And it's a party. And like I said, these two boys, completely different vibes. Koa was just so chilled, like he was very mobile, but he was quite quiet, he wasn't very vocal. But this little man, he's both, he's vocal, he's just trying to walk already, he's clapping. I'm like, mate, you're 7 months old, like you're doing so much. Just, yeah, we had to purchase the bouncer, as you may imagine, because this is never ending. If you managed to make it till the end of this video, I really hope it's not too long. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.